It's not like any other podcast, coming to you straight from the heartland where investing is told like it is. It's time for Darren Garman's Paranoid Banker Podcast. Hold on, because here comes the next episode of the Paranoid Banker Podcast.
Hey there, Darren Garman here. And before we get into this week's podcast, question for you, two. Number one, are you a man? If so, you're going to want to listen very closely. Number two, do you feel you're not reaching your true potential? Are you having thoughts? Are you waking up in the morning? Are you going to bed at night and you're thinking to yourself, there's something missing here. I feel like I'm not fully reaching my true potential on what I could be, whether it's in your bank account, your income, whether it's health, body, condition, the shape that you're in, whether it's maybe the relationship you have with your wife or significant other, or maybe as a father to your kids. If in any one of these areas or in more than one of these areas, if you're feeling you're really not reaching your potential and you're leaving some on the table, or maybe in some cases a hell of a lot on the table, and know that you're not getting any younger, know that it is very important for you personally to reach your potential. You need to read the information and the story I have about this on my website. This is especially for you. You'll want to go to darrengarman.com. darrengarman.com. You want to click on Inner Circle Coaching, and you're going to want to click on What's Your Effing Excuse? Okay? I'll say it again, darrengarman.com. You click on Inner Circle Coaching, and you're going to want to read the story under What's Your Effing Excuse? Again, especially if you're a man, father, husband, and it doesn't matter if you're married or divorced, if you've got kids especially. This is important. This is an important story. This is important information for you to read. Now, for you ladies out there, this is nothing against you ladies. Bottom line is 98.8% of the customers, clients, especially the consulting and coaching folks that I work with on a monthly basis are men. And so if you're a man, you will want to check this out, especially if what I've just said to you resonates. If you're not reaching your full potential, again, bank account, body, the shape that you're in, relationship you've got with your wife or significant other, maybe as a father to your kids, and maybe there's some other areas, and maybe all of these areas. You know who you are. So if that's you, you will want to, either before the podcast starts or after the podcast, sometime you need to read what I have for you at www.darrengarman.com. That's DARRNGARMAN.com. You want to click Inner Circle Coaching and then read What's Your Effing Excuse? All right, let's get on to the podcast. Well, hey everybody, it's Darren Garman, and we're going to talk about that P word. That P word. And the P word is potential. And I'm going to go out on a limb here on a few things regarding potential, regarding your potential, reaching it, and some of the steps I'm going to at least share with you that I think, based on my experience, is really important to take in order to reach your potential. And I've talked about this before in a couple of other podcasts in the past. And I'm bringing it up again, and not again in as much as, I'm constantly talking about it, because I'm not. But I am constantly hearing about it from you. Most of you men that I hear from, I'll hear from some ladies too once in a while, of course, about this. But most of the time it's men, and it's men that have married, they have kids. A lot of them have their own business or businesses. and they feel that there's something missing. They're not really reaching their full potential, for example, with the way they look in their body, knowing they could be in much, much better shape than they're in, much better condition, look a hell of a lot better than they do, or maybe being a better husband to their wife, better father to their kids. They've got this gnawing at them, just knowing they could be doing a hell of a lot better, and for some reason, they're not. They're not. For some reason, you can be doing a hell of a lot better in a lot of areas, but you're not. And so I want you to understand a couple things before I really jump into some information for you to really kind of think about. First of all, this is not some kind of what are the speakers that are out there? What are they called? Motivate. So this is like not some kind of a motivational talk. I'm going to kind of cut through a lot of that BS. I mean, I don't get paid for talking like this to you. I like to be as transparent as possible, and so this is not designed to jack you up, and really get you running out the door excited for the day and all that. Which, if it does, I mean, that's good. I mean, if it does that, I will tell you I'm a happy guy. But that's not really what it's designed for. That's not really what I'm going to hit upon in order to get that kind of effect from you. As a matter of fact, probably some of the things I'm going to say are going to piss you off. They're probably going to make you mad, and you're probably going to actually be mad at me about a few things and probably disagree with me on a couple of things. So I guess at the end of this podcast, if you leave this podcast really feeling great about me, I may have done something wrong, if that's the case, but we'll find out once I start hearing comments from you guys. So let's talk about this, because I get this a lot. And not surprisingly, well, I guess that's not right. That's not correct. That's not accurate. Surprisingly, I'm finding that I will begin relationships or have continued relationships with clients, investment clients, maybe some coaching, consulting clients too, where a lot of it starts out with investment stuff. Maybe they're buying their first property or their next property. Maybe they're getting involved in their next multifamily investment, whether it's active or passive, or whatever. And ultimately, the conversation leads to personal stuff, right? I mean, not like deep, dark secret personal stuff, but the conversation goes to personal stuff. And ultimately, for a lot of guys, it's, I just don't think I'm being the best businessman I can be, being the best husband I can be, maybe the best father I can be. I feel like I'm leaving something on the table. I'm already, throw the number in there. I'm already 53 years old. I'm just feeling something's gnawing at me here about where I'm not at. I'm not where I thought I should be in one area, 5 areas, and I'm frustrated about it, and I'm not quite sure what the hell to do about it or even where to start. And I will tell you that I hear that a lot. And really, I've never been close to death. Okay? I've attended a lot of funerals and, all that. And I've never talked to anybody that has maybe died or come back to life or been really close to death. I've got relationship with a lot of folks that have gone through a lot of adversity, with maybe disease, maybe cancer or, maybe some other things. And they've come out of that, right? Some didn't, but they come out of that. And I've got a little perspective there. So I've never talked to anybody that has died, and like come back to life or has been like really, really, really close. So what I'm saying here, I'm admittedly I'm reaching here, but I think I'm right. One of the things that I don't think you really want to have when you're like close to dying. Let's just say you're on your deathbed. Okay. one of the things I think you don't really want to have are regrets. So Gina works with a lot as a social worker, doing her thing. She works with and sees a lot of older people, and by older I mean 70s and on up. Even into their 90s and even older than that sometimes. And she deals with a lot of these folks. And in a lot of the conversations that she has with them, there's a lot of regret mixed and sprinkled in those conversations about what they could have done, what they should have done, what they didn't do. And then looking back, it's sad. Of course, there's a lot of conversation about things that were great too. But there's a lot of conversation about, if it would have been had to do it over again, or choices made, etc. And it's probably impossible to not have regrets at the end about something, because we're not perfect, We're not. But, I think the game for me, at least thinking out loud here, is to minimize those. And one of the biggest ones for me, and I'm finding for a lot of other people, especially the more people I talk to that fit into two categories. Category number one is they're men. And by the way, this isn't, I'm not saying women don't have, but I'm just saying 98+% of the people I deal with are men. And secondly, they're at least in their mid-20s or older. Most of them skewing in their 40s and older. Okay, so if they're in like that demographic, there's a lot more talk about potential, not reaching it, not getting there, mad they're not there, upset they're not there, and holy shit, there's a big mountain in front of me to actually get there. In whatever it is, category or categories. And so it can be like intimidating. So a couple of obvious examples. If you're 340 pounds and you want to get to 185 and you can be at 185, you got a hell of a long way to go, right? A lot longer than, somebody like me. If I want to get to 185, it's, maybe a month and a half and I'm probably there. So there's degrees of that, and I get it. Same with maybe what you're looking at in your bank account from where you really want to be to where you are now. And, that's a sliding scale for everybody. One guy can be grouchy that he's not reaching his potential and feels he needs to have, $500,000 sitting in the bank. Another guy is thinks $500,000 is absolutely nothing, is embarrassed by it. He thinks it needs to be 50 million. So, there's degrees of all of this. But at the end of the day, we can all agree upon, and they would all agree, that they feel like they're leaving something on the table. And they don't want to continue to feel that way. They're either going to do something about it, or they're going to be like 98% of the population, and what do they end up doing? Giving up. Forget it. Right? I'll just continue. How many people do you know are like that? They pretty much know that they're not going to reach their potential. They've decided they're not going to do the necessary, spend the necessary time and do the work on themselves to get to where they need to be to reach their potential as a man in one or more areas. And so they pretty much checked out. These are the folks that at the end of their lives have a shit ton of regrets and wish they would have done things a lot differently. Again, I don't know anybody that's, been on their deathbed and, has come back from that, but I got a feeling they're thinking about all of the shit they could have done, should have done, and the potential that they left on the table, and they've not done anything with it. And so it's a problem. It's a big problem. And it's something worthy of conversation because, I deal with it a lot. So what should you do? What you should do, really, would, in my opinion, and when I counsel my investment partners, customers, clients, when I counsel them about this, I mean it's a full day. I mean it isn't anything that I mean, just sidebar here. If you think a podcast and listening to one podcast is going to cure and make everything exactly the way you want it to be, like a magic pill would be, I mean, you really have a lot of delusion going on. Okay, and so saying that, we're not going to cover everything and everything. We're not going to hit everything that everyone would probably want to know, need to know, or that I think they should at least be thinking about on this podcast. But I am going to hit just a few quick things to help you think through this in terms of yourself, where you are, and where you want to be. Okay. First of all, number one, it is when you have the feeling of not hitting your potential, starting to be frustrated by it, grouchy about it, even mad about it, in more than one area. You're not unique. Okay? This is not just you needing therapy somewhere. Okay? Even though maybe therapy might be a good thing for some. But it's not as if you need to see yourself as being extraordinarily different from everybody else. To have this feeling, to have these thoughts, to be thinking through this in one or more areas of your life. I mean, if you sit down with a legal pad, I mean, we can all come up with lists of what they are. So you're not different and you're not weird, you're not goofy, because what you have to fight here is society really kind of wants you to feel weird and goofy about it. Okay? You shouldn't try to stand out. You should keep your head down. Keep quiet. Don't attract attention, right? Don't rock the boat. I used to hear that all the time when I was growing up. Don't rock the boat. Hey, come on, don't rock the boat. Let's not rock the boat here. Don't be special. That's reserved for other people, not you. And don't draw attention to yourself. How many of us were kind of brought up that way? How many of us still probably think that way? And it's even worse today. Because society in general really does a good job of kind of suffocating you and sucking this part out of you. Especially if you're a man, by the way. And so it's a problem. And the outside world and society doesn't help you. It wants to soften you on this. Make you more softer, gentler, kinder, all of that. That's what's going on. And truth be told, for many people to reach their true potential in any area, you can't go by those rules. But those are society's rules, except for special people. And, more than likely, you either think or you've been told you're not one of them. So again, this is nothing different. I mean, this is nothing where you should feel different. This is common. So that's number one. If this is your feeling, if you've been thinking about this, if what I'm talking about resonates, it doesn't really matter what your age is. You're a younger guy, you're an older guy. Doesn't really matter at all. So don't feel like you're different because of it. So that's number one. Number two, I already kind of talked about it. Understand that society's goal is to make you as soft as possible. Okay? Society wants you to conform and make you as soft and you to conform as fast and as young as possible with no incidents. Okay? Everything that goes on from the time you come home from the hospital as a baby to when you go through school, to when you get into having your own life away from home and a career. It's all about you conforming to norms. Okay? Norms. Some call them industry norms in business. There are industry norms in business, but there are norms, business, personal, financial, health. There's all these norms, and you should conform to the norms. Okay? There's a ton of pressure on you to conform and not reach your potential in a lot of areas. And it's easier not to conform. It's easier to conform, right? Because there's a lot of pressure on you to conform continually. And it sucks. Because a lot of times you don't really realize all this shit, especially what you're capable of in a lot of areas, until you're like down the road a ways. So for me, it was in my early 20s when I'm working at the prison, and I come to the realization as I'm working there in my early 20s, I'm not reaching my potential at all. Now, was my job bad? No. Was I in financial problems? No. My life was good. I was married. At the time I was going through this, my oldest daughter, Madison, was probably like 6 months old, 4 to 6 months old. But I came to the realization I'm not reaching my potential at all, especially as a man. Providing for my family, my kids, my wife, looking at myself in the mirror, and knowing what I was leaving on the table, doing what I was doing. Again, honorable profession, nothing against it. But I knew at that point in time, it was just freaking gnawing at me. I had a hell of a lot more. Gas in the tank. I was leaving a shit ton on the table. So I jumped into the real estate business, and of course, here I am, going on 30 years later. Still working at reaching my potential, by the way, in all these areas. But I realized it, and I did something about it. Even though, as I mentioned, society doesn't want you to do anything about it. They want you to conform. Well, the next thing you need to do is, after you understand you're not a weird person, you're not goofy, you're not different for feeling this way, you have to basically make the decision that you're going to kind of symbolically give society the finger, and now you're going to be on a mission to reach your potential. You got to make that decision, because if you don't get to that point, you're never going to reach your potential in anything. You got to make the fucking decision. I'm going to do it. Screw society. Screw what everybody's telling me on what I need to do, should do, act, all of that. And I'm going for it. In one area, 2 areas, whatever. That's where it starts. And the sad thing is most people won't even get to that point. Okay? Well, I take it back. They'll get to that point, but then they'll choose to not. Why? Well, what will they think? Right? What will my friends think? What will my coworkers think? What will my mom or dad think? What will my brother, and what will they all think? So then it becomes really a fight to battle. What will everybody else think? And then if it's, holy shit, what will they think? And it's not good. What do most people do? Oh, that's right, they give up. They don't even go down the road. And that's point number 3. So once you establish the fact that you're not going crazy, you're not being ridiculous, and that it's natural to feel that way, and that number 2, you understand societies want you to be normal And so society has a game it's playing to basically keep you as normal as possible and not reach your potential. The third thing is that once you come to the conclusion that you need to make a decision, are you going to care about what other people think? And it really means you can't. You can't care what other people think. Okay. So there are extremes of this, of course, by the way. So, for example, if you've decided that you need to reach your potential with your body, okay, you're a man, you're 25 pounds or more overweight, you know you are, you're tired of it, you've been tired of it for a long frickin' time, and now you're going to do something about it. Well, before you decide to sign up for the marathon in 2 weeks, you probably need to think that through and have a conversation with somebody. So, look, so there are extremes here, okay? So we're not going to go into those extremes, but there are. But I'm not talking about the extremes. I'm talking about real world here. You can't care what other people think. You just can't. And that's what probably keeps most people from doing this. Because the moment you do, then you're out. And you won't nearly be where you think you need to be in a lot of areas of your life. And for a lot of you, you're probably really good in one or two of these areas. But you probably really suck in some of these others. Right? So probably the reason why you are not where you think you should be is you have up to this point really cared what other people think. That's probably what's held you back more than anything. Again, there are degrees of this, but in general, you're probably guilty. I was for a long, long time. Long time. And then the last point I'll share with you on this today. Again, like I said, this is really an all-day thing. And everything I've covered so far, it goes off into 5 or 6 different directions that need to be covered. So, I realize that. But here's the last thing. Last thing is developing then a plan. So once you've gotten to a point where you have come to the conclusion that you've not only are not reaching your potential in one or more areas of your life, and then you've decided now I'm gonna F and do something about it now. Screw this. I'm tired of it. I'm doing something. In whatever areas it is. Now you need to make a plan and work backwards. Okay? You need to be a plan and then you work backwards from the plan. All right? And for some of you'll know this intuitively. Some of you'll be really good at having 4 or 5 plans going on at once. Okay, so I got my body plan and what I want my body to look like. I got my financial, what I want my bank account to look like. My relationship with my wife and my kids as a father. Here's kind of what I want each of those to look. So some of us are maybe good at having 1 or more plans going on. Some of us, like me, I'm not good with multiple plans. I'm good with like 1 or 2. That's it. Okay. I'm not good at doing all things at once. Working multiple plans. I'm good at 1 plan. And then once that's kind of in a really good place, I'm in I think I've got made some progress. Now I get the other plan going. So 1 or 2 is like the top for me to be working on at one time. But that's not to say you can't work on all of them at once. At least in some way. But it's making a plan and really coming to the conclusion in your mind, where is my potential as a man with how I look, for example, what kind of shape you're in. What do I need? And then where do I need to be? And work backwards in terms of what you need to do to get there. Okay. And this is oversimplifying it a ton, but that's what needs to happen. Whether it's how you look, how much money's in the bank, the relationship you've got with your kids, you need to develop a plan and work backwards from where you ultimately want to be to where you are now and the steps that need to be taken. Right? That's what needs to happen. So what I've just outlined here is kind of simple, really. And what I've outlined here, there's a bunch of it that really doesn't take any work. Right? So let me recap again. So you pretty much come to the realization, if you're having these kinds of thoughts, feelings, conversations about not hitting your targets and reaching your potential in one or more areas, especially as a man, you're not weird or goofy. It isn't abnormal. And then knowing that society really would rather have you be normal and keep you down, and be quiet and not special and not reach your potential. That's the way society wants it, understanding that that's the case. And then understanding that what's ultimately going to hold you back from really making the decision on whether you're going to move forward and reaching your potential in any one of these areas is giving a shit what people think. Okay? Really caring what they think and what they say. And then once you're past that, you get past that, which half of the people won't, by the way. They won't get past it. But the half that do, then it's then doing the work, sitting down, making a plan and working backwards on those plans in each of those areas that are important to them to reach their potential. I mean, I kind of simplified it there. But really, at the end of the day, if you're not doing that, here's one thing you can't do. You can't bitch about it. You can't moan about it, and you can't be jealous of the other guy or the other person that's doing it. You're out of the game there, buddy. You can't. You can't. And probably most of you are. Right? Probably many are. They're pissed. They're angry. They're bitching about it. Short-tempered. Maybe with their wife. Maybe with their employees. Maybe with their kids. Maybe with the dog. Knowing that this is going on. But if you decide not to do it, if you decide not to make yourself a better person in one or more areas, you don't have the right to bitch about it. About how you're getting screwed over, how things just don't go your way, how somebody else is maybe connected, they've got the connections and you don't, how they're lucky and you're not. How maybe they're a brown noser, ass kisser, and you're not. I mean, I don't want to hear that shit. Because it's all your fault. And that's what most people don't want to hear. But it will be. So you got a choice as I wrap up this week's podcast. Are you going to be a person, and I'm specifically on this podcast talking to men, are you going to be a man that's going to reach his potential? Or not. There is no wrong answer. It is a choice. So you will receive no criticism from me, no matter what direction you go. If you decide, no, I'm good, Darren, my life's good, things are great, it's all good, buddy, then good for you. And fine. I mean, I'm not going to criticize you at all. If you're not in that bucket, then what I'm talking to you resonates. Then it's time to get to work. You've got a new decade in front of you. It's time to get to work. On it. Not next week. Okay? I'll wait till after the Super Bowl. I'll wait till first of the month. I'll wait till after Valentine's Day. Yeah, I'll do it then. No, I mean, you need to be starting like right now. Okay? Right now. So look, I appreciate you being with me on this week's podcast. If what I've said resonates with you, if what I've said makes sense, if you've been really kind of feeling like maybe we've known each other for a while as you've listened to it, you would be smart to read the information that I have about this on my website at darrengarman.com. And you want to click on Inner Circle Coaching, and you'll want to click on What's Your Effing Excuse to dive into this more. Okay? So look, have a great day, have a great week or weekend whenever you've chosen to listen to me. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you later. See ya. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining Darren Garman's Paranoid Banker Podcast. For investment questions, comments, or to get in touch with Darren, go to www.garmanblog.com. Thanks for joining Darren Garman's Paranoid Banker Podcast. For investment questions, comments, or to get in touch with Darren, go to www.garmanblog.com.